A 14-year-old boy is abandoned by his father for years. The moment they finally reunite, his dad doesn't hug him, doesn't apologize. He hands him a job that could kill him. And the boy says yes anyway. This isn't just anime. This is one of the most accurate depictions of insecure attachment ever put on screen. Let's break down why Shinji Ikari says yes, and why so many of us would too. Psychologist John Bowlby theorized that the way our early caregivers treat us shapes how we approach every relationship afterward. Romantic, platonic, even our relationship with authority. Shinji was abandoned by his father after his mother's death and raised by relatives who don't seem particularly present either. That's not just a sad backstory. It's a setup for what's called anxious avoidant attachment, a person who craves connection but expects rejection, so they either cling or shut down completely. Keep that in mind. Everything Shinji does in this episode is filtered through that lens. Shinji is summoned to a city he's never been to by a father he hasn't seen in years, and the reunion isn't warm. There's no apology, no explanation, barely eye contact. Just a command: get in the machine and fight. From a psychological standpoint, this is a textbook inconsistent caregiving pattern. Gendo isn't just distant, he's transactional. His attention only appears when Shinji is useful to him. Here's the disturbing part. For a child with an anxious attachment style, any attention can feel like validation, even conditional, cold, weaponized attention. This is why Shinji doesn't walk away. Psychologically, showing up at all is the closest thing to intimacy he's ever gotten from his father. When Shinji is asked to pilot Unit 01, his first instinct is refusal. He's terrified, and rightly so. But the moment he sees another child, Rei, injured and being wheeled in to take his place, he changes his mind instantly. This is a huge psychological beat. Shinji isn't motivated by courage. He's motivated by guilt and a deeply ingrained people-pleasing response, a common trauma adaptation where a person's self-worth becomes tied to being useful or self-sacrificing for others. Therapists sometimes call this the fawn response, a lesser-known cousin of fight, flight, and freeze. Instead of confronting danger, the person appeases it, complies with it, tries to earn safety through submission. Shinji doesn't get in the robot because he's brave. He gets in because saying no feels more dangerous to his sense of self than facing possible death. Rei barely speaks in this episode, but she's doing important psychological work in the background. She's shown as detached, obedient, almost emotionless, willing to pilot despite her injuries without protest. She represents where Shinji could end up, a person so conditioned by neglect and utility-based worth that they've stopped expecting anything else. Rei isn't naturally cold. She's what happens when the fawn response calcifies into total emotional suppression. This contrast, Shinji's visible anxiety versus Rei's eerie calm, sets up one of the show's core questions. Is numbness safer than fear? Even the machine design plays into this. The Eva doesn't feel like a cool sci-fi mech. It feels like a womb, an extension of the mother, something Shinji is forced inside of just to be seen as valuable by his father. Psychologically, this is a metaphor for enmeshment. When a child's identity gets absorbed into a parent's needs or agenda, Shinji isn't given the chance to be a scared kid. He's immediately expected to perform as a soldier, an adult, a tool. This is why so many viewers, especially anyone who grew up with emotionally distant or demanding parents, find Shinji relatable rather than pathetic. His fear isn't weakness. It's a completely reasonable response to an unreasonable situation. If you've ever said yes to something you didn't want to do, just to avoid disappointing someone, if you've ever felt like love was something you had to earn through performance. Shinji's decision in this episode isn't really about giant robots at all. It's about the psychology of a child who has learned that being needed is the closest substitute for being loved. Episode 1 isn't an origin story for a hero. It's an origin story for a coping mechanism. And that's what makes Evangelion different from every other Mecha show. The giant robot isn't the point. The trauma response driving the pilot is. If you want me to keep breaking down the psychology of this series, episode by episode, subscribe, because episode 2 introduces something even heavier. Shinji's relationship with his own sense of identity. See you there.